Let's get on to what happened on Wednesday night here this week with NXT and AEW. Both shows were on the air. We're going to start with WWE NXT first. It took place, we're at the WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut here for this show. It was Tom Phillips and Triple H hosting here on the closed set. Again, no crowd here, no fans. This episode of NXT, this was more of a promo heavy show. There were no new matches on the show this week. Basically, what we got for the 2 hours, we started off basically for the first hour or so with in-depth promos and a look back at the history of Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano leading up to their upcoming match here. I will say these promos, these in-depth promos and these look-backs were actually pretty good. It was not bad. This one, at least the first hour or so, and then after we got done with that, we had an in-depth promo and a look back of the history leading up with Finn Balor and Walter for their upcoming match in the future here. So at the NXT TakeOver show, which we don't know when that's going to happen either, because again, all the stuff in Tampa Bay is been canceled right now. So again, they did the in-depth promo and look back at the history there, and then finally they did the same thing here with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair leading up to their upcoming match in the future. So the in-depth promo. So again, that's basically what they did for 2 hours. No new matches here. The promos were good, but again, they should have had live matches on the show. I'm sorry. I did see some of it. I did go back and watch it later on. I mean, the promos were fine, but again, you need to have some live action there. I'm sorry. It's just my opinion. And I thought they really missed the boat here on NXT this week. Just my opinion. Let's talk about AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite. It took place from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. Again, at closed sets. The show started off with Cody Rhodes coming out for a promo. He's talking about not wanting to live in fear of the global pandemic, the COVID-19, of course, which then pivoted very quickly to a bit about needing the elites to be the elite at Blood and Guts. Matt Jackson and Kenny Omega eventually worked their way to the ring. Omega's talking about how scary the real-world situation is and how there might not even be a Dynamite next week, which we'll talk about. So if they're going to go out, they're going to go out elite. Then we see Matt Jackson call Hangman Page to ask if he was going to be on their team here for Blood and Guts. He raised the glass to them, so basically that's a yes. So after all that, the elite then turn on the lights and shoot off the pyro to start the show. But again, no crowd here. It's a closed set. Tony Schiavone was doing the interviews on this night. He was not on commentary. So we had Tony Schiavone interview MJF at ringside. MJF basically says he's not wrestling tonight because he doesn't have to. And then he'll let everyone else go out and hurt themselves because they're beneath him. So then we see him and Sean Spears gambling, quote-unquote, on the show. And, you know, Tony Schiavone, I thought he was great here. He ultimately eventually gets in on the action. So, I mean, AEW, I thought, did a very good job here on the night. They actually had the wrestlers, one side of the arena had the heels, and then the other side the babyface. I thought they did a very good job. Again, not a lot of people there, but again, at least you have people in the crowd here, and they were cheering. They were playing along here, and I thought this came off very well for the night. Brandy Rhodes was filling in for Justin Roberts. She handled the ring announcing duties for the night. I thought she did a very good job here overall. And then you had Jim Ross, Excalibur, and Taz. They were doing the commentary on the night here. Again, Tony Schiavone was doing the interviews. So we had the opening contest. We had the Lucha Bros taking on the Best Friends here in tag team competition. We had, of course, Pac. Pac was not there with the Lucha Bros, so the Death Triangle, so he was not there tonight. Orange Cassidy sat in on commentary, and then, just some insightful analysis from Orange Cassidy. You know, that's a wink and wink, nudge, nudge I'm talking about. You know, Orange Cassidy ultimately at one point did hit the no-hands dive onto the Lucha Bros from the stage, and then ultimately we see the Lucha Bros, they won the match with a top rope double stomp package power driver combination, so they get the win over the Best Friends. After the match, Chuck Taylor challenged the Lucha Bros to a street fight in a literal street or parking lot, so that match looks like it's going to be happening at some point in the future. So actually a street fight in a street, literally, or a parking lot, so that could be cool. Next up, we had a four-way match here, women's action. We had Hikaru Shida, we had Penelope Ford, we had Rio and Chris Statlander here in this four-way match here for the women. The match, it's okay, I guess. I mean, not terrible. I mean, could have been better. Ultimately, Shida does get the win in the Fatal 4-Way here. She pinned Penelope Ford after hitting this. I will say it was a good-looking knee strike. I mean, I may have knocked out Penelope Ford for a second, legitimately, but she got the win here, and good for her. She got a win. Colt Cabana, who is now part of AEW, he was recently just added to the roster. Of course, he was doing his stuff with NWA Power. I think he might still be doing stuff there, but he's interviewed at ringside by Tony Schiavone and said that Penelope Ford would be doing a lot better if it wasn't for Kip Sabian here. Sabian, of course, who was right nearby, could hear all this. He took exception and offense to it, and then he and Cabana had a bit of a confrontation, and then Colt Cabana just basically shoved him off, and then he just left. So they could be setting up a program or a feud or something with those two in the future, so we'll see where that goes. We had a pre-recorded interview here with Jon Moxley. He was interviewed in the parking lot about how he was, quote, not medically cleared to be in the arena. So they did this deal basically, saying he was not medically cleared. Then we actually see Jon Moxley drive away in the Ford GT that he got when he was offered a spot in the Inner Circle. So, of course, this was Mr. Khan's Ford GT. That's not really Moxley's, but still. So that was basically all we saw from Moxley on the night. Next up, we had more tag team action here. We had the Jungle Express, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. Marco Stunt was not there. He's under the weather, apparently, not related to COVID-19. Took on the Butcher and the Blade. The Bunny was not there tonight either, so she was not there. So tag team competition. MJF, prior to the match, had paid off the Butcher and the Blade some money here. So they have the match. The match is fine. At one point, we see MJF also yelling orders at him to try to get the win here, and that distracted them to set up the combination Flapjack and Cutter from Jurassic Express, and they actually got the win over the Butcher and the Blade. MJF did not look happy in that situation, so Jungle Express get a nice win here. Now we get the Dark Order. They come to the ring to announce the identity of the Exalted One. They're getting ready to do it. They're interrupted by SCU. Christopher Daniels, he's talking about how there's no Exalted One, and that we finally get a video revealing who the Exalted One is. It turns out to be Brody Lee, of course, the former Luke Harper in WWE. He is revealed to be the Exalted One. So when the video ended, Brody Lee was actually standing behind him in the ring, and then in the Dark Order beat down SCU. So Brody Lee is the Exalted One, which just... Look, it was predictable. It could have been him or Matt Hardy. I'm fine with it. I still think they could have went the other way here. I'm going to talk about that here shortly. So, we saw Jake Roberts and Lance Archer. They were being interviewed at ringside by Tony Schiavone about how they're going to get Cody Rhodes' attention. And then afterwards, a video aired of Archer setting up a ring in the woods and challenging a group of locals to fight him. He knocked them all out eventually, and then chokeslammed the final guy onto a hood of a car. So they're really trying to put Lance Archer over here as a very tough individual, which he is. So they did a pretty good job of getting him established here. So in our final match of the night here, it was 6-man tag team action here. We had members of the Inner Circle, that's Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager, taking on the Elite, that's Cody, Matt Jackson, and Hangman Adam Page. Chris Jericho was in on commentary here. I thought he was pretty good here. He does put over Cody Rhodes here quite a bit, but he's also putting over his own guys as well. We saw Sammy Guevara singing Judas, which was fantastic. If you saw the lower third graphic, Hangman Adam Page was listed as Adam Hand Wash Page during his entrance. Of course, he's been social distancing since November. Of course, social distancing is the big thing now, where we were talking about that earlier in the podcast. At one point in the match, Cody threw Ortiz into MJF at ringside, which got Cody choked by Wardlow, and then Wardlow attacked by Arn Anderson. We saw Jackson and Page went for the Young Bucks Indie Taker, but Page was pulled off the apron by Hager, and Santana rolled up Matt Jackson to actually win the match for the heels. So the Inner Circle will now gain the advantage in the Blood and Guts match whenever that's going to happen, which we'll talk about. After the match, Chris Jericho said he's banning fans from all AEW events going forward. That's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. as Jericho is bragging about how the Inner Circle will dominate the Elite, and then we see a drone, which we all knew, which we found out what eventually that was, because it seemed like they were stretching for time here. They were stretching, Jericho was, until this drone could get going. Eventually, the drone flew into the arena, and then Matt Jackson revealed that Nick Jackson's Spud and Blood and Guts will be taken by Matt Hardy. So that was Vanguard 1, the drone. So, and we do see Matt Hardy appear in the stands as they went off the air. And credit to Jericho and the Inner Circle here for selling Matt Hardy's appearance here. So he's bringing back his version. He's bringing back the delete version of Matt Hardy, the deletion. So I'll be honest with you, folks. I still think that Matt Hardy would have been better served to be the Exalted One, to be the leader of the Dark Order. But I'm intrigued to see how they do this. They're going to have Brody Lee be the Exalted One. They're going to have Matt Hardy be a member of the Elite against the Inner Circle and the Blood and Guts, showing whenever that's going to happen, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. But yeah, I thought this was very good stuff here for the most part as they went off the air from Daly's place here in Jacksonville, Florida. Again, a close set, but that was AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite. Now, let's talk about the ratings here real quick. They are in for the week. AEW's Empty Arena show beat NXT's Empty Arena show, as both brands took different approaches to their presentation here this week because of the coronavirus pandemic here. The AEW show was supposed to be taking place from the Blue Cross Arena in Rochester, but again, of course, it was in Jacksonville. And NXT, of course, they were in Stamford, Connecticut here for this show. So AEW won in the viewership here. They won in the ratings here again this week. They averaged 932,000 viewers. That's up 22% from the previous week's 766,000 viewers. They beat NXT, which drew just 542,000 viewers, which was down 22% from last week's 697,000 viewers. AEW won handily in the 18 to 49 demo. They came in number 20 for the night in the demo with a 0.35. And then NXT came in number 81 for the night with a 0.16. So they beat them handily here. I think that basically just tells you that the people wanted to see live action, and like I said, the NXT promos were fine, but I think them not having any new live matches on the show really hurt them, and people were just more intrigued with the rumor and speculation of the Exalted One with Brody Lee and Matt Hardy coming in. So I think people knew that was coming. So I think that's why wrestling fans were more intrigued for that show. So through 24 weeks head-to-head, AEW now leads with 20 wins, NXT's 3 wins, and we have the 1 tie. My pick of the week, it's very simple. AEW wins for the week, hands down. Again, while the promos, again, on NXT were fine, no live matches. I mean, I'm sorry. I thought AEW, I thought their approach was the right approach here, and they are my pick of the week. So through 22 episodes, or through 22 weeks here of doing this for the YouTube channel, this will be part of the YouTube channel as well, I have NXT with 13 picks and AEW with 9 picks.